Hey, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Espen Kraft and I love synthpop. And I've been collecting synthpop since I was a teenager in the actual 80s. And I've put together a list of 10 synthpop albums I think are mandatory in everyone's collection if you love 80s synthpop. And another thing, I'll leave a link for you in the video description to all these albums if you want to check them out on Spotify. And in no particular order, here are my 10 synthpop albums I think everyone should own. Dare by the Human League.
Love this album, and with the addition of Susan Ann Sully and Joanne Cottrell, produced by Martin Rushent, this album from 1981 has a row of great songs. Sound of the Crowd stands out for me.
I cannot leave out Non-Stop Erotic Cabaret by Soft Cell.
Made on a very limited budget, it almost sounds homemade. Songs like Tainted Love and Say Hello, Wave Goodbye just oozes early 1980s synth pop.
When Vince Clarke left Depeche Mode, well, that was not the end of him, and he formed Yazoo with Alison Moyet, and Upstairs at Eric's, their first of only 2 albums, influenced me a lot.
With the very simple use of synthesizers, monophonic sounds and drum machines, the soulful voice of Alison Moyet, songs like Only You, Winter Kills, just breathtaking from this 1982 album.
Some Great Reward by Depeche Mode, the first album I bought on vinyl of Depeche Mode when it came out in 1984. It's still my favorite Depeche Mode album.
An album relying heavily on sampling. This album spawns a row of hits like People Are People, Blasphemous Rumors, Master and Servant, Somebody. I love it.
I often get comments that my music sounds a lot like the Petra Boys, and that's very flattering. I love the Petra Boys. And Please, their first album was really an album that changed a lot for me in terms of the way I see music as colors. I'll explain that in another video, but Please by the Petra Boys, a great album.
Western Girls, Suburbia, Love Comes Quickly, Opportunities, the list goes on and on. My favorite track, however, is the opening track, 2 Divided by Zero.
This album I played to death back in the day, Alphaville and Forever Young. One of the most glorious synthpop albums that came out of the 80s. I love it.
Released in 1984, I played this to death on cassette back in the day. Unfortunately, Frank Mertens left the band shortly thereafter and they were never the same without him. My favorite track, Summer in Berlin.
Oh yeah. Ever seen Ferris Bueller's Day Off? Well, that end song, the outro song on that movie, that's on here. This is Stella by Yello. Love this album. Very experimental, very influential and very good sounding.
The Swiss duo of Yello. Well, nobody ever sounded like them. This is a very, very interesting album. Lots of variety, and I especially love Desire, the opening track.
Mr. Howard Jones and Humans Lib, his debut album. You ever heard of playing air guitar? Well, me and my friend, we played air keyboard or air synth to this album before we had any synths ourselves. This is awesome.
Classic synth-pop hits like What Is Love and New Song. I like Hide and Seek, and check out Live Aid and Howard Jones' live performance of Hide and Seek on the piano. Glorious.
No list of synthpop 80s albums would be complete without something by New Order. And this is Technique, an album that came late in the 80s, but it's awesome and I love it.
New Order will always be synth-pop pioneers with their mix of punk rock and synth-pop. This 1989 album captures all that to me.
And how can I not have my fellow countrymen Aha on this list? This is Hunting High and Low with their single Take On Me, a worldwide hit, and we're awfully proud of this group here in Norway, and this was highly influential to me. I listened to it day and night back in the mid-80s.
That's right, this is one of the albums that influenced me a lot in terms of composition and lyrics as well. beautiful use of synthesizers and drum machines. And those vocals, of course.
Well, these were 10 synth-pop albums that influenced me a lot growing up in the 80s, aspiring to be a synth-pop artist myself. And if you're wondering why I don't have albums like this, or this, or this, or this on this list, that's because I don't consider these albums to be strictly synth-pop, and I'm saving this for the next video and more, so stay tuned. As always, I'm Espen Kraft and I am the 80s. Thank you so much for watching and cheers!